everyone, and welcome to the press conference with today's winner from Elimination Round 2 of the 2018 Wiley X Summit Cup, Mr. Jacob Wheeler. Jacob, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I have to start out asking a very interesting day on the water, but what happened in period 3?
Period 3 was crazy, obviously. In period 2, starting out, I hadn't had anything at all, and I caught a few fish on period 2, but I was still lost. And I was basically running break lines and just trying to find, a group of smallmouth. I knew I needed to find a group. And I wasn't that far out, but I knew that, 2.5, 3 pounders, I needed a few of those to move up. So I'm going down this break line, and I look on the electronics, and I have my screen split from my map to my 2D to my downscan. My downscan runs off the back of the boat, so I get a view of the back of the boat and I get a view of the front of the boat, so I know what's going on. So you might miss something on your 2D on the front, and you get it on the back, and so you know what's up. So I'm trolling, and I see a couple fish down there, and then on the back of my downscan I see 3 big blobs, big ones, and I'm like, So I mark them, I turn back around, and I make a cast, and it doesn't even hit the bottom, and it was a 5'9" giant smallmouth, probably one of my top 15 or top 10 smallmouth I've ever caught. Big, giant one. So I'm obviously excited, pumped up. Make another cast in there, back-to-back cast, catch a 4'10" or 4'9", 4'11", or something like that. And just another great big one. And, and that sort of clued me into what I needed to look for. It was more so looking for those break lines and just looking for those fish that were really just cruising down those break lines. So I just started actually zigzagging back and forth on the trolling motor, and I would see those fish, and I would just pitch back behind the boat, or I would pitch in front of me, and I would catch them. So it was pretty simple after the fact, but those electronics really clued me in, and that down scan picture in the back was what really clued me in what was going on.
Why was fishing so slow this morning? Period 1, period 2. What was happening?
I think the biggest thing was just the fact of everybody trying to figure it out. I think there was prior knowledge to the lake, so like you have these preconceived notions of what you think you're going to do. And so sometimes you just have to go out and throw everything out and go fishing. And I think a lot of guys are probably, the few guys that had been there, they're probably doing the same thing on the same areas, doing this, that, and they weren't catching them. And so I feel like that was one of the biggest things. And then they started just fishing the lake, looking at things, okay, what seasonal patterns, what we needed to do. And once you started to dial it in, because obviously the first period, at least I always try to develop what's going on. I'll sample everything. I might catch a couple shallow, but I might roll out deep, and I might roll in the middle, because I want to know what's going on for the rest of the periods. Because you never win it in the first. You keep yourself in it, you win it in the last. So you really want to get as much information as you possibly can, and gain as much information on the body of water that you're fishing during that first period. So I feel like that's another reason why sometimes in the first period, some guys really jump out in front, but other times, they fall back.
Jacob, the sun popped out kind of mid-morning, then later in the afternoon it clouded back over. Being a smallmouth lake, how do you think that sun had any effect on your catching your fish mostly in the third period? Or?
I'm not really sure about it. I just think you just ultimately come and running into them. I think that's really what it came down to. There was a group of fish there. They were eating perch, and I could see a lot of perch balls around. And I think it was just maybe they were there in the morning, maybe they weren't. I don't know, but I've always had pretty good success in the mornings for smallmouth lakes, but sun definitely does not hurt anything. Smallmouth like the sun, they're visual eaters. They visually can see a lot better. Where a largemouth might be, not as much so. He's not, if it's this or that, he's not as much of a visual eater as a smallmouth. So if he can see, he uses his eyes more than anything. So I feel like that's definitely, it didn't hurt anything for sure.
So your first 5 fish averaged 5 pounds, or 4 pounds, 4 pounds. You had the 1 5.
Yeah, you weighed 2 fish.
You had 2 that were almost
like 5 pounds. They were like.
So could you identify the quality when you're looking at the electronics? Could you identify those fish as
I knew they were
fish?
freaking big uns. I knew there were some flat blobs down there,
right.
Looking down there. They were about that big on those ranch electronics, and I was like, that's a dang big. And I broke one off early in the first period that was probably, I knew it was a big one too, and I just went, it just come off. But there's just sometimes, it depends on how fast you're going too. If you're trolling pretty fast, obviously it's gonna be, boom, boom, like you're idling. But if you're trying real slow, it's gonna be elongated, so it's gonna make it look bigger than it actually is. So you just gotta, but I could just tell how much girth was there, and I was like, them are bass, them are dang big ones.
How do you change your strategy? Obviously, you made it through elimination round. Now we're going into sudden death. You're going to be fishing for a cut weight. You're going to be fishing to be one of those first anglers who can hit that weight. So how do you change your strategy going into that round versus what you did today?
Truthfully, I'm not that great at the sudden death rounds. I've qualified for 2 or 3 of them, I think, and I've made it in one. Barely made it in one, and ended up winning follow that after I made it to the world championship, or to the championship round. And so that was something that, like, it's tough for me because I'm always trying to gain information, trying to gain what's going on in the body of water. So you have to sort of go straight to what you think is going to go on. You can't, like, hodgepodge around, like, I'll go check this later. Oh, that's good. You go wherever you can think you can catch a bass, you go there right off the bat. And so it's a different strategy, totally different strategy than the remainder of a lot of what we, the elimination rounds is totally different than the sudden death round. So I enjoy it, but it's definitely stressful on my part.
On a day like today, where there's so much movement in the third period on the score tracker, how do you keep your head in the game during those kind of chaotic times?
Well, I mean, it definitely is tough to keep your head in the game throughout the whole period. There's no doubt there's times in my mind I'm sitting there and I'm drifting off and I'm thinking, man, I caught 2 bass, or no bass. I'm like, well, what the heck? And I know I can catch a bass. I'm pretty sure I can. So, it's tough because you have these mind games that you're playing with yourself all day long. Man, what are those guys doing? Man, they're catching them. Man, this, man, that. You're sitting there with nothing, and you're like, what the? You're trying to figure it out. You're always trying to figure it out. And so, keeping your head down and just keeping an open mind is the biggest thing in Major League Fishing. I feel like making adjustments, fishing all depth zones, trying to, you have to have an idea of what a bass is going to do on that body of water. But I mean, you get a general region of the country, and you're going to know, like, all right, probably if they're smallmouth, they're going to be doing this, one of these 3 things. If they're this and that, they're going to be doing that. Because I basically in the first period I practiced. I went shallow, mid depth, and deep. So I tried to hit everything. And that was, wasn't going on all 3 ways. So, it's just keeping an open mind and fishing the majority of all depths or ideas of what you think is going to go on. That really, I think that's really good. And sometimes it's really good to be in the back and come up because you fish with an open mind the whole day. You make it, where a guy jumps out in front and he's sitting there and he's sitting in first and he has 20 pounds. Well, he's going to sit on that hole and he's going to stay there until he's back. Well, this guy back here, he's constantly running, boom, boom, checking stuff. So he has a lot more knowledge of what's going on than maybe this guy that's sitting on the one hole the whole day. So there's a lot to it, and it's a lot of fun. Each day is just totally different.
This is your first event as a full-time cup angler. How does it feel to win the day with that new status?
It feels pretty dang good. I mean, you always want to win, no matter when, what you're doing. I mean, I don't want to lose dang anything, hopscotch. I don't know, whatever it is. I just don't want to lose. So, it's good to be able to fish against this caliber of angler and have the success that we've had. So, it feels really good. I feel very humbled, very excited to get to the next round and see what happens.
So I looked through your career statistics just before I came down here, and apparently you're pretty comfortable up north. Like you've had some success up north. Talk a little bit about kind of your affinity with fishing these kind of northern tier fisheries.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some good ones and I've had some bad ones. In the beginning of my career, I definitely, smallmouth threw me for a loop. They did. I've had some tough ones that I'm like, man, I'm scratching my head. But a friend of mine always told me, with smallmouth, you don't beg them to bite. Now, sometimes you have to sit there and you got to switch baits and this and that. I mean, there's certain times and places like where there's a fish there, you're trying to get them to bite. You got to do some things, but that gave me the mentality to really go out there and fish confident and keep moving It's in just basically what I would do shallow, where I'm covering a lot of water shallow, I have to do that the same way offshore, and covering a lot of water. So it took me a few years to understand what they got on, what they liked, and really to sum up smallmouth in a gist, it's three things. It's three things, and you probably can talk to any smallmouth angler, and this would be the three things. It's isolation, so isolated boulders, isolated rock, whatever it is, gravel. It's big rocks. Big rocks, they love that. And then it's probably edges. Edges. Those are the three main things with smallmouth. And I could take that anywhere in the country, and a smallmouth will be doing the exact same. One of those three things.
One last question, Jacob. I know you have other stuff to get off to. Could you talk a little bit about your most successful baits, what you were actually catching the fish on when we hit that third period, and then what changes are you going to make in your tackle before you go to fish the sudden death?
Well, third period was really just simple smallmouth fishing, drop shots, throwing a little 5-inch green pumpkin worm, wacky style. And that was the only thing that was a little bit different. Throwing on a 1/4 ounce, weight, and that was something that a little bit lighter. I normally throw a 3/8 when I'm dropping on them, or a half. And so that 1/4 was sort of slow, a little bit slower fall. I had a little bit more resistance because it was a wacky worm. I was rigging wacky style. So it just seemed like those fish really ate it. They might have ate anything else, but that was the first big one that I caught on it. And I was like, hey, I'm not changing now, obviously. So, next round, I have literally everything rigged up. I pretty much have everything rigged up from this round. I might change some line, this and that, little small stuff, but I had 30 rods in the boat today, and I'll probably bring in the same 30, rigged up the exact same way, and call it good.
All right, well, good luck in that sudden death round. Hopefully we'll see you back here in the press conference room, and congratulations on your win today.
Thank you so much.